Okay, folks, welcome this morning to the Fife Property Show. We're going to be talking today about changing rooms, relaunching the Fife home with that different look. I mean, if you've taken a break from selling in the last year and you're ready to try again, or if your home is still for sale and you'd like to refresh your marketing a bit, well, this show is actually for you. This is the ideal situation, especially with the new year. This is an opportunity as well to build on what you've got and not actually just write off everything and reset it. It's actually building on top of what you've got already. So we've all said at some point that a change is as good as a rest. That's ultimately true, isn't it, Perry?
Absolutely, a change is as good as a rest, and I think a refresh does us all the world of good in all manner of our lives, actually, whether it's your home, your working life, your social life, everything, isn't it?
Yeah, and whether it's switching careers or changing a routine, doing things differently is the route to new results. It's the same old question about, I've always remembered that somebody used to say to me, Jim, what is the height of ignorance? And I went, what is it? And they used to say to me, well, it's doing the same thing but expecting a different result. And it's
exactly.
If you keep doing exactly the same thing every single time and you don't change any of these circumstances, then and the environment doesn't change about you, then you're not going to get a different result at all. So it's actually adapting and changing. It doesn't need to be huge changes. It just needs to be a minute change. A classic example of that is everybody's tried at some point to take a bit of paper and a magnifying glass in the sun and try and light the paper. Hands up, who's done that? Me. Well, just only me.
No, me.
No, I've done it.
So everybody's tried to do that. And you notice at some point, you have to get it exact before the paper sets on fire. And this is exactly what happens with your marketing as well. It might just be one small thing that's out of alignment. It could be a price adjustment. It could be the photographs or the lead photograph. It could be the description just not emotive enough to get somebody to click through. It could be the video content isn't emotive enough. It's maybe a silent movie when it should be talking pictures. To get somebody to click through further. That's the fundamental difference. It's just that adaptation, that slight movement, it then sets it on fire, and therefore that's what gets your property more activity. So done a wee bit differently, but not hugely different, just adaptation. You speak to your estate agent. If you're on with somebody else right now, speak to your estate agent. And when it comes to selling your home, nothing could be more truer. Changing the appearance of your property doesn't have to be costly or disruptive either. There are many ways of creating that new look, and with surprisingly little effort involved. Often using just furniture and accessories. This is your bag, Perry, straight. Accessories, it's got to be you. And you can see today, Andrea's got this beautiful grand piano in her living room.
You've accessorised top notch.
I feel I'm maybe needing a little change, though.
And it could be updating the photography as well. There's the little change.
Yeah.
To capture and restyle that interior overall. You do get a second chance to catch the eye of anyone who missed you on the first time round, as well as the new year's buyers. Remember, in Fife, every single day, there is 6,500 properties roughly coming on the market every single year. And it roughly works out at almost about 20 people make a decision every single day, 20 people every single day in Fife to buy or sell a property. So even though your buyer isn't in the market at this point in time, it could be tomorrow. It could be the next day. However, tomorrow is a day that never comes. You have to focus on what's going to happen right now in the present, because there is no future in the past. I'm really profound this morning, am I not?
Must be getting near the end of the year.
Yeah, absolutely.
God, you're digging deep today, Jim.
And if you'd like to talk about getting this a new look for your home just right, and always to help, that you've got a good team here as well to do that. So let's ring in the best time of the year with the tips on how to make that makeover and get your move back on track. What is the first thing we should be looking at, Perry?
I think the first thing is really you've got to have focal points. I think you need something in a room that stands out. So every room does need something for buyers to focus on. And that focal point has to convey warmth, has to give light, character. It's all the emotive things that we've spoken about before, isn't it? It's what you see, maybe what you're hearing, maybe what you're smelling. All those things make a difference. And it could be simple things like, people naturally gravitate towards them because you want to see what's outside, don't you?
Yeah.
And what's potentially looking in at you. So that's a big gravitational point. They draw the eye to the garden, they make the rooms feel larger and brighter. And it really does make it kind of feel a bit cleaner as well. The classic thing is if you've got wooden floors, isn't it? And you've got sofas that are maybe on those little legs, and you're at the bottom of the room and the sun's glaring across and all you can see is that dust underneath and things like that. It's just tiny little things that can make a big difference, isn't it?
It's also when you walk into a room and you actually see a dirty window, you actually think to yourself, there's no effort going into this presentation. And that then gives you the subliminal message, is there any effort going into looking after this property?
Absolutely. It's a negative impact straight away, isn't it? And then that you've got to then try to overcome that and change that psyche through the rest of the property, isn't it? And that can be harder.
What's your thoughts on this, Andrea? You know, what's your initial impact on, you know, when you walk into a room and you see dirty windows?
I think we've got to be very mindful that, you know, not everybody that's selling their house lives in a show home.
Yeah.
And it may be that they'll need some subtle guidance as to the best tips to help them get their house, which is their home, and they might have about 15 kids running about in it, and they don't have time. They're holding down 2 jobs at the moment, and they don't have time to clean the windows. So I think we do have to be subtle in how we help and guide our clients.
But then equally, you've got a window cleaner that can do it for you. You just get somebody else to do it for you if that's the case. And it is a good investment for the small price that you'll pay to do that. The classic example yesterday, you know, I was out to someone and they've got they've got a bed and breakfast, and it must be about 6 or 7 rooms. They've got 6 of them rented to students just now at this point in time. And they said, well, how am I going to get photographs of the rooms? They're not exactly in the best shape because, you know, it's just the way they live. I says, but we don't need to do every single room. You know, people just need an overall feel about why they want to buy the property, how many rooms it's got, what the sizes of the rooms are, and possibly some sort of video walkthrough, and then telling them where it is in proximity to everything else, especially the Fife coastal path. Had to get that one in somewhere. But more, and that's it. So you just go with what you've got. So you're absolutely right, Andrea. It's not about having a show house. It's actually just giving somebody enough to get them to want to lift up the phone or inquire more, to want more information, or actually come and view the property to find out for themselves. Everybody realises that, because not everybody lives in a show home. You know, it's few and far between that go around to people's houses. But I did see one the other day in Cellar Dyke, and I thought, wow, this thing is really first class. And this is my normal day-to-day living, she said. And I went, you're joking. It's like, oh my God. It's like, I'm not really sure how I'd be able to manage that.
And I think
it's a bit unreal sometimes, isn't it? If you go into the almost perfect house and you think, you can't possibly actually live in here. And where do you keep your rubbish, your clutter, your little bits and pieces? And because it is just perfect like this.
Some people do. Don't knock it, because that's just the way they live. Remember, this is all about routine and habits as well. Yeah. So, you know, if you're in that mindset and that's the sort of thing you do, and you tidy up right at the back of yourself every single time, it's easy to maintain a house. I mean, we've proven it with the show we did before about how to make your house viewing ready within 2 hours. And that's an easy one to do. And it is just a combination of habits that will do that. So what other things can we talk about focal points, Perry?
I mean, we're talking about the windows and primarily at this point, and for me it's about highlighting them, and that could be really simple options. Your curtains are a beautiful big bay window, for instance, and you walk in and half of the bay windows covered with curtains, and you can't see all the beauty of the architecture around the window as well, because bay windows are unusual and they do kind of draw people, so you want to show off, don't you? Through your curtains can pull right back and just make that a highlighting factor of the room. I think clearing your windowsills, I call it a windowsill, people call it ledges, but clearing the windowsill for me is a big thing as well. There's nothing worse if you go into a property on the windowsills, because again, it makes it look as though it's cluttered, isn't it? It's a negative rather than a positive thing. And it goes back to what Andrea was saying. I know people don't want to have a showroom house. Some people do live that way, but people also don't want it to be overly clinical. So you do want to have personalisation about the house as well, because people want to imagine how they live in it. And if you're a family, they want to see, does the space work for family, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I think we should reiterate as well that, you know, in order to sell your house, you don't need to have it showroom condition.
No.
It can easily be lived in, and it's just, all it is people want to realise that, can we actually live in this house? Because they have the expectation about your furniture will come out, theirs will come in, and if they can see their furniture and them living in that space of that area, that's as good as it gets for them. So don't put that pressure on yourself if you're out there listening and tuning in to expect every single time, because I do get people saying, I'm just not ready to sell my house yet. And I'm like, well, why are you not ready? And that's without seeing them. That's just a conversation. I've had a casual conversation. I'm not ready. I've got to get the house tidy. I've got to get painted and decorated. I've got to change the kitchen. Whoa, wait a minute. Where's this coming from? Well, you see all these changing room shows. You see all these shows online, you know, on the television, and it gives the distinct impression that this is what you should do every single time. But these shows are designed to get you to watch, and they're only extreme conditions. For every show it's shown on the television, they go through about 10 other shows that they don't show at all, because they're not emotive enough, and they won't build enough audience for them when they actually show it. So they don't actually broadcast it at all at any point in time for that reason. And some of the broadcasters don't pick it up for that reason as well. So the expectation to have your house showroom condition every single time is not a real suggestion at all. It's just an idea about, once in a blue moon I will come across somebody's house. It's like that. Living rooms, televisions, things like that. What should you do there then?
For me, again, when we're talking about the windows and the light that they bring in, I think it's about making sure that you arrange your furniture in the right way as well. You want to increase that sight line, don't you? I remember last summer, Jim, when we had a property, and it was a beautiful property, and the downstairs worked really well. And because we're in various houses all the time, we're kind of visualising how space can be utilised. But we were getting foot traffic, and it just wasn't progressing. We couldn't understand why it was foot traffic. And I remember you and I spoke about it, and we said, well, maybe we need to rearrange the furniture or something, because the way that the sofas were in the lounge, it made the lounge look really small, but it was how the current owner used it. So we literally just moved the sofas around to open up the floor space, and what a difference it made. And literally the next piece of viewing that took place, the property was sold, and it was a simple thing like that, because it just it opened up the room, and it brought the room alive a little bit, and people could visualize how they could use it. So for me, that's a big thing. I think living rooms and televisions have become a natural focal point as well. Everyone wants their TVs, don't they? I think we're an audience now that like to be entertained, but you can get big TVs, and then if you've got them on stands, etc., they can take up quite a lot of room and space in a house, can't they? So I think you need to be careful about how you do that.
You get some televisions that are completely disproportionate to the room.
Yeah.
You've been in my son's house. They had a big TV anyway, but they won an even bigger one in a competition. So they now have an 8-foot TV in a room that's only about 12 foot wide. It's like being at the cinema.
Yeah. And possibly that's maybe not the right thing to do then.
No, but they're young, so.
Yeah, I mean, it's a focal point and a gathering point, but I think you do need to be very careful, because it's not necessarily a selling point of your home, isn't it, when people walk in and see that. So you do need to be careful of that. So moving your TV might not be practical, but you can certainly kind of diminish its presence a little bit in a room by kind of decluttering around it. Try painting the walls, for instance, behind it in a rich colour, like navy or a deep leafy green or something like that. Be surprised actually how then that makes it all blend in. So if you've got this big mounted television on a wall, suddenly actually you're not just seeing a television on a wall. It makes it look a bit different, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You actually get some TVs that will look like a picture now. You know, when it's not on, it just looks like a piece of art, which is
get some
clever.
televisions that actually look like mirrors. You put them over your fireplace, and it's a mirror, and when you switch it on, it's there. So it disappears into the background and becomes a mirror before then. So that's quite good as well. But they're all quite expensive, the options to do that.
Yeah.
And the easy one is obviously to diminish it and add things like books and artwork and accessories to take the viewer's attention away from the television and onto something else. I think the most important thing as well is when you're doing a viewing, make sure you just switch the television off. So, I'll tell you what, it's amazing how many, people out there, sellers, take people around their property and actually leave the television on. But it's a big distraction, especially if it's something it's maybe shouting or it's music, because we all respond to different things. And I often come into somebody's house and I just actually ask them to switch the television off because I get completely distracted visually if I see something else, and it takes me off what I should be talking about.
Yeah, it does take your attention away of television, doesn't it? I mean, that's the whole point of it. But I'm the same as yourself. If I go into a property and the television's off, I always ask them to switch it off because they don't necessarily think about it, because to them they're just living at home, aren't they?
Yeah, and it does distract from what you're trying to achieve, and you're trying to achieve a one-step approach. By the time you walk in the door, they've kind of confirmed in their mind that this is the property they're probably going to buy if everything ticks the box. So if you're walking through, every single thing you're doing and thinking about is in order to tick all these boxes all the way through based on the story that they've told you in the initial qualification process. That's what that viewing is all about. Yeah, to confirm all these points and answer all these questions. Remember as well out there, questions are a good sign. Even though it's a question you think is quite confrontational, it's still a good sign, because questions mean that they're trying to convince themselves to actually buy. That's what a lot of people don't realise. A question is them handling their own objection in order to buy what you've got. So invite questions, welcome questions, and don't be too put off if it sounds like a negative question, because it is for that reason.
I remember once. Yeah, I remember once a house sale actually was totally pivotal on whether the people left their fixed to the wall TVs, so people wouldn't have to. And I think there was a TV in every bedroom, one in the living room, one in the kitchen diner sort of area. But then, the price that was negotiated at the end, could have bought 1 million TVs.
Exactly.
The vendor was like, "Oh, I've just bought my TV." I said, "Why you buy another one?"
And that's it. Sometimes it's just important for someone, for a buyer, to actually just feel that they've got a good deal. And even though they're paying maybe 10,000, 15,000 more for a property than they should be, just having the televisions thrown in, fixed to the wall is a big thing for them. And yet it's disproportionate to the amount they're actually paying extra. But it works. It's often, there's the primary reason why we leave white goods out when we're actually negotiating, when we're doing descriptions, because it's often that people come in and say, is there any chance you could leave the washing machine, or you could leave the cooker, the freestanding cooker? And then we go, yeah, if the price is right, that's a good deal. And just that wee thing, the cooker was going to get left anyway, to be honest, or they were going to get rid of it. But it's just that thing, that small thing, because it's the human psychology about people just want to feel they've got a good deal, and just getting that wee bit extra, even if it's a washing machine which might be about 20-year-old, or a set of furniture which has no bearing on the room at all. They just feel that they've got a good deal of getting that. So that's why it's important to actually possibly be prepared to negotiate these little extras, which makes a fundamental difference, but not actually put them in the primary offer in the first place. Is just to provide a better deal. What's your thoughts on fireplaces, Andrea?
Right. Well, fireplaces, should always be accentuated, and it's a great feature to have in a room. If you don't have one, is it worth putting one in? Yes, I would say so. For traditional styles, it's hard to go wrong with, your candlesticks, your pokers, tongs, full whack, your fireplace furniture. Screens, you don't have to have an ugly open fireplace. You can put a really nice decorative screen in front of it. And as we said before there, a mirror above the fireplace, over the mantelpiece. Not always the safest thing to do. Use me on my safety thing again. They do say you shouldn't have mirrors over mantelpieces, but I think everybody does. And if you've got a modern fuel burning stove, then that pile of logs to complement it, maybe in a nice basket at the side. Again, safety wise, don't pile logs up right beside your fire, because they go on fire. Anyway, and if you've got
even I think if it's middle of summer, you've still got wee starters that you can just fire up the fire just for the viewing purpose.
Yeah,
So
that's
just,
what I was about to say.
You don't need to put massive logs on or anything like that. Just get the primary bit done where it looks nice and emotive when somebody walks in the door, but it's not overpowering with heat.
Yeah, I mean, and if you're in the weather where your fire can be on, if you can do that while you've got a viewing happening, when pictures are getting taken, something like that is always adds, a certain warmth and welcoming to your property.
I think as well, though, if it is the height of the summer and it doesn't seem quite right to do it because it looks a bit false or it really isn't needed, one of the things I do, because we've got the log burner, is I often just put a candle inside it, and then it just get the flicker of the candles as well. So you're not actually generating heat, but you're generating warmth, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
that impression in somebody's mind.
Yeah, but if you're not lucky enough to have a fireplace in your room, you could try painting that wall as a feature wall, or putting some nice wallpaper up onto it, just to accentuate that one wall, give your room a feature.
So should we take then the opportunity to move things around then?
Definitely. Yeah. We did that recently in our own living room, not this one, our other living room that I'm in, not the one with the grand piano. And because it's coming into winter time, we just had plantation shutters put on the window, which was an excellent idea of mine that my husband eventually agreed to. But we've had to move the settee in front of the window, which we would never have done before because you would have seen the back of it.
Yeah.
But in the winter, the only radiator in the room, the settee was covering it. So instead of having the settee sitting right out in the middle of the room, that change has been amazing. And everybody that's come into the house has said, "Oh my goodness, this room is so much bigger." But it's not, it's just an optical illusion.
So, Perry, do you think the easiest way to change the look of your home is just use what you've got then, but in a different way?
Yeah, I think you can just use what you've got. And I mean, I know Andrea's talked about putting the blinds up there, but there are ways of just moving things around. I did exactly the same thing in my property. So where we had our television and then the sofa, we literally just swapped the rooms around. And it's like you said, Andrea, it was like an optical illusion. But what we also did, we did add a new addition right enough because we had quite a big bulky radiator, and what we did is we took that out so we can get the sofa pushed back, and then we just put a slimline tall one in at the side. And then what a difference it's made. You really wouldn't think it, but literally it was only maybe about 8 inches that it went back, but it made a big difference into the layout of the room. But so obvious striking pieces of furniture make a big difference, in like a statement piece, like a nice fancy radiator. Brightly coloured couches make a difference as well. I like that. I've got kind of like a grey sofa, but then I've got a little single chair which is like green and yellow striped, so it like totally doesn't look like it goes with the sofa, but it looks great when you put it alongside it. So I think striking bits of bright coloured furniture do make a difference. Again, a big piece of artwork's nice as well. So again, if you've got like a plain wall that you don't have a television on, a nice piece of artwork's good. Upright pianos, not all of us have got those. Andrea does.
Not all of us can play them either.
No, I couldn't.
I can't.
But things that stick in people's minds, that's what you want about a room. They want to go into the room and then something that is whether it's a splash of colour, a bit of individuality. You want something unforgettable to be photographic moments for the viewer. I think for viewers as well, 12 months ago, when there was like half the property that there is now, then you might not necessarily have had to think out of the box that way. But I think now you are having to, because buyers now, whether maybe they just had the one property that ticks their boxes, now maybe have 2 or 3. So it's all about the little smart things that you can do about making yours stand out, isn't it?
Yeah.
So for me, that's a big thing.
And it's these wee changes that will transform the way your home looks online.
Yeah.
Because people aren't standing in your home. So we have to do as much as possible to get a 2-dimensional photograph to actually look like it's emotive enough for somebody to actually inquire. Hence the reason why talking pictures and walk up and talk up videos and proper scripted approaches to things, in order to tick that box in somebody's mind about, to get the inquiry process done through. And it really is giving your second chance to catch the eye of anyone who actually missed you the first time round, which is what was spoken in the beginning. The change, even the streets of similar 1930s and Victorian houses, not every room has furniture in the same place. Moving a bed to another wall is a really good one. Changing the position of a couch or an armchair, relocating a sideboard or a chest of drawers can all prove a valuable refresh to your property. It definitely provide a valuable refresh to the property. Switching things like swapping items. You'd said it there the now, Perry, and I think you'd touched on it as well, Andrea, about swapping items from room to room to give an entirely new different setting, and thinking artwork and mirrors and freestanding shelves, lamps and plants is another classic one to use. I actually just recently on, I think it was Instagram, I'd seen somebody who was a house stager. She said, and it was actually quite an important one. She said, actually, rather than actually bring your price down by, £5,000 or £10,000, why would you not just spend a couple of £1,000 and actually get somebody, a proper house stager, to actually stage it properly to maintain the price point? There's a point there.
That's a good idea.
Now, I'm not saying it's going to be £1,000 or £2,000 to get a house stager, because that's really taking all your furniture out and putting new furniture in. But to get somebody's professional advice, maybe for a couple of £100 in order to do that properly, could actually make a fundamental difference. It could be the difference between the couple of £100 versus the thousands of pounds and the difference in the price point, just to get that person to give that professional advice. Because remember, we are estate agents. We're really good at what we've got, and we are, our customers say that as well. But we can't be everything to everyone, if that makes sense. It's like your classic, let's talk about doctors as a perfect analogy here. You've got pediatricians, you've got ear, nose and throat, you've got all different disciplines. But your normal GP that's in your surgery really can't specialise in any single one of them. They have to know everything to a degree, but only to a certain degree. They can't know every single bit of that information, hence the reason why they then refer you to a specialist. And that's exactly what we're talking about here right now. If it is that process, then it might mean the case of just doing something like that. So experiment yourself as well and take snaps on your phone to see how it looks and where it looks, and if it looks good and where it looks good. So you've got a number of different ways that you can do that in terms of there. So I think that's quite important as well. So the other one for me, Andrea, is probably remove if you've got too much furniture. We've recently just touched on it, and it blocks the sunlight at the window, and it covers up some clear, floor space, which is actually quite instrumental in making the room look a lot bigger than it is. The trick is finding the sweet spot, and this is the key here. So the trick is finding the sweet spot that allows your home to shine while remaining comfortable enough in a place to actually live in. That's key and fundamental to there. So it's getting into that mindset. It's disrupting someone. It's disrupting someone in their mind. That's what this is all about. It's actually occupying that mind space. You've got a limited amount of information you could retain at any one point in time. So what is going to get somebody to stop in their tracks and actually say, oh, that looks good? So it's just that initial soundbite in the beginning that'll make a fundamental difference. It's that introduction to that right photograph. It could make that difference between someone clicking through and not clicking through to your property. That's important as well. The internet and social media is not about selling your property. It's about marketing your property. It's about getting someone to pick the phone up. It's not getting someone to, because often you get that where people say, it should be sold by now. That'll sell quickly. And it's like, well, how do you know? You've never been in the house. You're only going on the pictures and the description. And that's great. That's a great compliment, but you've never been in the house. So how can you make that assumption that it's going to sell quickly if that's the case?
Well, those things, we always talk about those things, Jim, don't we? And they're the pictures, the description, the video, they're all the teasers, aren't they? They're all kind of doing, like, say, 75% of the work. But the main part of it is that last 25% and getting them over that threshold, and then how you can make that wow. You talked about the staging thing there. I think that is a really important thing, because actually it's human nature as well. We collect all these things through our lives, don't we? As our family's growing, as we're growing, a lot of things that we have in our houses have emotional attachments to them. So actually we don't notice that having a sofa, 2 chairs, 3 tellies, 5 of whatever else is too much. And so sometimes actually you just need that person to kind of step back and say, maybe actually just move that there, take that out, do that there. You're not getting rid of anything.
Yeah.
You're just realigning it through the house in a way actually to appeal to others, not to satisfy your own emotional connection to how you currently have it. And I think that's the hard thing for people sometimes, isn't it?
I'd possibly debate as well to someone, it's possibly with that acquisition of all that furniture, you should actually consider actually putting some of it into storage on a temporary basis just to get it out of the way. Because do you really need the 2 armchairs and the sofa in the actual living room? You know, do you ever use it? I mean, you know, the cats have the armchairs. We have the sofa, the cats have the armchairs, and that's the only reason we use them. So do we actually need them in that room if we ever come to sell it? Will it look overpowering if we have all that in that room? So that's the kind of things you've got to do. So yeah, seriously consider actually potentially putting your stuff into storage, or even shoehorning it all into the garage. Everybody knows a garage is a garage. It's 4 walls. They know the size of it. They open the door, and even though you've got all your furniture in there, they know how far it goes back, and they know the space it's going to be available. Because garages don't really change. That's it. That's the footprint you've got, and you know what you're getting. Whereas a house is a completely different proposition. It's got walls, it's got doors, it's got partitions. It could all change inside from the footprint it initially takes up. So that's why it's important to have a house staged, but a garage doesn't need to be, unless it's got an outstanding workshop to the rear, or you've got something, a mechanic's, den to the side or something like that. That's the only reason you'd ever want anybody to see inside the garage to a huge degree. So you could put all your furniture into the garage and all the stuff that you don't need in there, and just keep it in there. I mean, you know, I've yet to find anybody say, well, I keep my car in the garage.
I was just going to say that, Jim. I don't think there is a single viewing that I have ever done where someone says to me, I need to put my car in a garage. Everyone says the garage is who parks in a garage now. Everyone uses it for storage.
Yeah.
The only person I know that keeps their car in a garage is a couple of doors down from me, and he's an estate agent.
Yeah, but some people, you'll get few and far between. It's very rare now that anybody actually uses a garage for keeping their car anymore. You know, it is mainly things like it's mountain bikes, it's road bikes, it's all this. If it's me, it's like it's old washing machines that you think you could reuse all the parts for, or it's a van that you're still not got around to selling on, and it's still sitting in the garage.
In case your fridge breaks down.
You know, Benetton Tees made spare parts from 1971 in case it comes back into fashion. You know, all your record collection that you can't store in the house anymore. All these different fundamental things you tend to just dump into the garage. At some
Did
point,
you get the teas made off Green Shield stamps, Jim?
I did actually. From the co-op. So these minor tweaks we've just spoken about removing furniture and making sure you put it in the storage or redesigning it or moving it about. It can make a fundamental difference in the beginning. What about let's go into things like replacements. What should we be doing about replacements then?
Well, most people delay in replacing the furniture until they've actually moved property. Yeah. They'll have things on order, getting ready to be delivered for the big day. But sometimes it would actually be better just to get that replacement furniture now and put it in your existing house, stage it, and it'll look so much better. It's not always the best option,
isn't it? Yeah. That's a really good point. It's, that's like I tell you what, this reminds me of when my dad used to buy a brand new car, and all throughout the life of the car that we had it, he insisted that he keep the plastic on the chairs. And we used it to the point where he actually went to trade it in for the next car, and then that's when all the plastic got taken off and somebody got the best use of it. That makes no sense at all when you think about it, but it's like, it was this old mentality about I better look after things. Yes, get new furniture, because it will make a fundamental difference, and you're going to be taking it to your next property anyway. So if you're going to your next property and you're having your furniture, buy it now. Really consider buying it now, getting rid of the old tatty furniture that you're wanting rid of, and actually putting that in your house to stage it.
Many times I go to properties and they say that, just ignore that sofa because I'm getting a new one when I move, and I'm thinking, actually, well, maybe you need to do that now because it would make this room look so much nicer. And it's little things like that. I did it myself when we recently moved. We were like, we'll buy a new sofa, but we'll wait till we move. And I'm thinking, that doesn't make any sense.
So it is a case of looking at what you can replace now, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. It's because new furniture, it can help sell your home, obviously, because it'll just make it look so
It also
much
has
better.
that new furniture smell, doesn't it?
Yeah. I was just going to say that. You know, it gives a certain smell to the room. It's like a new car smell. Especially if you've gone for leather, that will always have such a prominent smell
Do you
to
know
it.
the new car smell is actually a spray?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't actually. They used to have that new car smell, but they actually bottled it into a spray, and every single car more or less gets sprayed with that before they actually let people see it now.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can actually buy the little air freshener trees with new car scent.
So you can do that for houses as well, though. You know, that's the one about, you know, the Febreze. That's the one about the gel, you know, the wee gel packs out of Home Bargains for £1 for 3 of them. Peel the gel off, stick them at the back of the door, make sure it's lavender or oxygen or, you know, cotton smell. These different things that are actually advertised on the television all the time with the advert that says it's fresh. You know, I still go back to saying that's, you know, who determined that mint is fresh for cleaning your teeth? Because it's not. It could be chocolate, but it could be the same thing. It could be chocolate flavour, you know, but you wouldn't clean your teeth with chocolate flavour toothpaste, would you? But it's exactly the same product. And all they're doing is changing the taste.
I'd give it a go.
But you see what I mean? You know, there'll be people out there, and myself included, when you says, you know, just use chocolate toothpaste every single day, you would go, wait a minute, that would rot my teeth. No. It's only the taste that you're changing. And yet people would automatically think that would rot their teeth. See that mental shift in your mind? That's why it's important to use the right emotive smells when people walk in the door. So make sure you use the loo long before somebody arrives. Sorry, I had to get that one in somewhere.
Make sure you strike a match.
and if you make sure all the methane's gone though. Or you'll blow the house up.
Oh dear. So whether you're upsizing
Moving
your
on.
property, whether you're upsizing to gain more bedrooms or downsizing for less to clean, the sizes of the individual rooms between your current and future home may be quite similar. As an example, and in any given neighbourhood, the size of reception rooms in classic Victorian terraces or the 30s semis can be very similar in those with 3 and 4 bedrooms. Yeah,
it's all the same, isn't it? It's usually typically the exact same size. It's usually about 3.5 by 4 in terms of meters, and then it's usually probably about 2.5 to 3 meters high in terms of the ceiling. And it's a format they used every single time. So absolutely. It's a good point, Andrea.
So have you spotted that fabulous couch and comfy armchair, or even a chandelier for your next living room? Perhaps a bed with gorgeous headboard has caught your eye, or a beautiful print or painting. If any of them will fit in your current home, why not add the glamour to your photos and viewings? So as I say, if you're purchasing for your new home, if it'll fit in your existing home, use it and get the best you can for your pictures, your videos and everything for the home that you're selling.
It's really a bit of smart thinking around your furniture. And you'll really thank yourself on the moving day. And having replaced the pieces, you plan to upgrade anyway. And with a mercifully shorter to-do list. Because then you're not then having to go and do that again because you've done it already. So your new home will be ready for its public appearance as soon as you move in. Party.
Absolutely. Especially in today's world when we're actually having to wait so long for delivery of materials, etc. Things are taking longer to come, aren't they? I think people, again, it's a human nature, isn't it? When we make decisions on things, we expect it to happen, right? It's going to happen now. But actually the reality is it could take 3, 4, 5 months.
Yeah, and that's it. And it could be delayed as well because of things like border stuff and all the rest of it. So if that then happens and you don't expect that to happen, you're probably better actually ordering it now, putting it in your house that you've got just now, and then taking it with you when you move to the next one. So you definitely know you've got it, rather than this horror story where you get to your next house, you've thrown all your old furniture out, and you sit for the next 3 weeks on blow-up furniture because you thought your stuff was arriving today.
Yeah, not good.
So what about, right, Perry, this is your bit. Luxuries with textiles.
Textiles.
So what do we do here? You know, what would you do here?
Oh, for me, I mean, everybody knows that home looks good if it's got additional textiles and colours. So for me, it really is about fabrics and tying a room together with that. You know, and you can do that through colour. I'm not saying have a multicolour rainbow in a room, but you know, pattern textiles are good. You can move like chilly echoes of things. So if you've got like sometimes whites and blues, and that can look quite cold, can't they? So I think just warming them up. Can add also, fabrics can add a bit of acoustics to a room as well. So you know, they can make a room, you're not got that echoiness walk in, or you're in a room. So it's nice to have that kind of comfort as well. So I think introducing new textiles to your room can instantly restyle your existing furniture. So it goes back to what we said earlier on. You don't necessarily have to be replacing big bits of furniture that perhaps an expensive item. You can do it with like accessorizing and just making something that's maybe older or not what you plan to have in the future, jazz it up a bit, and actually it looks like a whole new piece of furniture because you've put these additional textiles on it, and gives you a whole new look to your photographs as well. I mean, our photographer is fantastic with that as well. She can kind of move things around in a room as well like that, and the smaller items, and make it really pop. And I think that's the thing. It goes back to what we said at the beginning. It's about what is going to capture someone, what's going to instantly make them feel that that room is welcoming to them, and memorable.
Yeah.
So I think if you're keeping the stunning velvet Chesterfield, chuck a throw across it. I mean, I used to have those in my old house, as you saw, Jim, but you know, I'm putting throws over them and putting cushions over them that can warm up, because Chesterfields, whilst they look great, they can be quite cold looking, can't they? And they take up quite a bit of room in a house.
Especially
so I think
leather couches. Leather couches often wear quite badly after time, and they look very worn. So putting a throw is a great idea for that.
I think throws, not just the fact that it kind of camouflage, but also it makes it look warmer. But you can use all different colours, contrasting colours as well. And you've got scatter cushions again that you could use. So again, you know, in my home we've got like a grey sofa, but I've got bright yellow scatter cushions. So again, it's just about making it pop a little bit. I think looking at all the different sizes within what you're putting into your designs as well, can make a room look maybe formal. It can make it look more casual. So don't be afraid to kind of mix it up a little bit, is what I would say. Different shapes and fabrics do add a friendlier feel, I think, and it's a bit warming to a room. And actually, I think it shows that you've kind of thought about it. It goes back to what you said earlier, Jim. If people are seeing that, they're thinking, well, this is nice. Oh, I like that. Oh, that's warm. So it's all those positive things that are happening. And then that mindset that individual has when they're viewing, that then follows through the rest of the house, because their expectations heightened if they've gone into a room that's like that, to then make the rest of the rooms deliver.
Yeah, I agree. New rug, instant pop to the floor, things like that. You know, there is sometimes I will actually, when I take a photograph, I'll take the rug away from the floor because it makes it look a lot bigger, and then I'll put the rug back. But sometimes the rug in a room can actually make the room feel a lot warmer, because it does look too clinical and sterile, you know, in terms of the way it's laid out and everything like that. So I think a rug will help the floor pop, and even with the zoning as well. But consider the size of the room, as I said. Busy designs are better suited to larger areas. For smaller spaces, go for a simpler design with an interesting, possibly texture. You know, is that a good idea, Perry?
Yeah, absolutely it is. I think that you can go for plain, or you can go with something that's colour popping with textures. You know, there's quite a lot of kind of fur type products out at the moment. Seems to be the thing, and nice for winter time. So you might even have to switch it out. You know, you might have a winter rug, you might have a summer rug. Goes back to what Andrea was saying about the shutters and moving things around. You know, it might, how you stage a house depends on what time of year it is as well, I would say.
Absolutely.
Definitely. But I think the big thing for me as well, one of the things I can't bear is, you know, if you go into a room and the rug is all you see, and you can't see anything else because it's too big. It's overpowering, and I think you have to be mindful as well of actually what flooring you've got down. So, you know, people put rugs on carpets as well. It's not just used for wooden. So I think it depends really what's going to be underneath that rug and surrounding it. So what can you see when it's done? As you said, busy designs are better suited to larger areas, I think.
Yeah, if you're putting a rug on a wooden floor or laminate floor and it's near a window, you do have to be careful that when the sun shines on it, you're going to be left with a dark spot on your wooden floor.
Yeah.
So when you move out and you suddenly say, oh, steps. Floors there. Well, maybe just need to leave the rug.
Yeah, it's
What
true.
about things like bedding as well? You know, is that something we should be doing?
Oh, definitely. That's a big thing for me, bedding. There's nothing worse when you go into a property and the bed's like half made, or you've got like a lumpy duvet, or actually it can sometimes look like someone's still in there the way it's been put
Yeah.
in. And it doesn't look great, does it? I like new crisp bedding. It's a quick win as well for people. White linens are always a good thing. They go with everything, so you can accessorize it as well. If you think about it, when you go to all these luxury hotels, they all have white linen, don't they? And we'll go in and go, oh God, this bedroom's beautiful when you walk into a hotel room, and it always looks really smart, but it's always white linen that they have.
But it doesn't need to break the bank, does it? Because you can literally get bedding sets for like £22 out of Argos and out of Amazon and places like that. Easily. At a local bedding shop as well, you can get that. So all you're doing is replacing the bedding covers at the top. At the very least, just the duvet cover and the pillow covers. If anything. You know, nobody's going to see underneath that. So if they look pretty tired right now, spend the 20, 25 quid and change these covers for a better cover. That, and again, it comes to this new smell when you walk in the door. Just that itself, it overpowers the room with the new smell when you open it, doesn't it?
It does, absolutely. And I think if we're talking like going with crisp plain colours, like a white, for instance, you can really pair that with some sumptuous bedspreads as well that make the rooms, again, it's that colour and texture pop, and luxurious layering as well. But actually, it's not luxurious. As you said, Jim, you can go down to Leaving High Street, go into B&M's or Home Bargains or something and get one for like 15 quid. It doesn't need to be a lot of money that you're spending, but actually what it adds to that room could be thousands of pounds, because it'll get you your buyer. So it's little things that you can do that just make it more beneficial for you and get.
So that's something take you into things like bathrooms and that, and you've got towel ropes and towels and everything. There's nothing worse than walking into a bathroom and you see an old tatty towel hanging on the rail.
Yeah.
And yet the bathroom, they've spent an absolute arm and a leg on the bathroom or the shower room, and it's like £5,000 or £6,000, and then you see the towels lying on the the corner, or there's an insistence to put back the toilet cover on the seat, and the bath, the toilet, the cover around the bottom of the toilet. It's like, get rid of these things. They're harbour for germs as well, so they often have a real smell from bacteria. Even though you've washed them, it's still it still gives that old sort of feeling. I hate to say it does, doesn't it? It's just like it just reminds people of something that's old, even though your place is completely new.
And the knitted dolly toilet roll cover.
Yeah, it's great. It's maybe your great granny had it, and it's been in your family for generations. But that is the time to actually put it away, and actually, for that purpose, because it does actually then, it drives all these emotions for someone. Notice how I'm talking a lot about emotions all the time, all the way through this, because that's what makes people buy. It's emotions that make people buy. Very few people buy on logic. They determine what happens is it goes straight to their brain and the emotional side, and then it goes to the logic side, and then they go, yeah, that sounds logical, and and it goes back to the emotion side, and they'll go, yeah, it's brilliant, I love it, and it's all within that instant.
Yeah.
So you've got to make sure it's emotionally led. Yeah,
it does go a lot on emotions. I don't know what the percentage of people that just go on the looks of a room at all when they're viewing. But I know when I've been like viewing houses or going around houses, I'm not necessarily looking at how they furnished it or where things are placed. I'm looking for, is there chips in the woodwork around the door? The little things the little finger marks beside on the wallpaper, a wee bit of torn wallpaper beside the light switch. How's it been finished along the skirting boards? Is it going to need work there to get the actual?
And then that's tallying up the cost.
Room.
That's the logical side comes to the cost, and then the emotional side decides, is that worth it? Is it really important for me?
Yeah.
So get yourself some rolled fluffy towels, hanging robes, look wonderful in the bathrooms. proper, nice, good ones. I'm not suggesting you get
not use.
I'm not suggesting you get them at the hotels, but something like that. I mean, why do you think the hotels do that? They're no daft. I mean, you could take a leaf out of their book straight away as soon as you walk into one of the rooms, and you could stage your room just like that. It is the bare basics in most places, but it still looks fantastic when you walk in the door.
Yeah, it's the basics done well, isn't it? And I think that's the
Yeah.
thing. And I think for a bathroom, for me, I did a pre-portal the other day in this 4-piece bathroom. Oh my God, it is just absolutely stunning. The one that we've got coming on in Scooney Crescent, it's just beautiful.
Yeah.
And that had a spa feel to it, but it was really simplistic, but it was just beautifully done. And it was little things just placed in the right places. And it was about that. It was about creating that spa-like feeling when you went into it. It literally did feel like you were walking into a hotel suite, and it was brilliant.
That then comes down to accessories with style, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, what should we do there then?
So accessories wise, you know, it's extraordinary how much you can transform the look and feel of a room with a few additional bits. Whatever your style, you know, a room, just you want it to be nice, don't you? There's stacks of inspiration out there. You can go online, like you say, TikTokers are brilliant for just now for showing you
all over Instagram.
Yeah, and all over Instagram. You have so much that you can actually see now that you can kind of have a look at. You can go online and do it. You can go your high streets. I'm one of these people. I'm old style, so I quite like the old house moving and magazines. I quite like sitting looking through those and see what's coming in. They usually come out every 3 or 4 months, and it gives you a good idea of what's coming on in the season. And it's a good way to pick out colours and textures and ideas how you could accessorize. But I think it's particularly effective when you accessorize well, because it really does make your viewings pop, but your photos pop as well. And as we said earlier on, people will say, well, can't see how that's not sold yet. But it's all the things beforehand, all the teasers, the photos, etc., as we've previously said, that are going to get people through the door. And you need your photographs to stand out above everyone else's.
It's amazing. I mean, people say, I can't believe it's not sold yet. And it's like, well, we're not even got on a website yet. It's like, that's why it's still in the process of actually getting going on.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like the expectation almost, like we've got to, it should have been sold by now. Well, it's not even got to a website yet. So this is normal practice for this to happen.
Exactly.
I tell you what as well, sometimes, this is emotionally led, just to come back to that point, sometimes you will, once in a blue moon, you will get somebody, it's seen the property online. They've actually come to the door and they've immediately said, this isn't for me. I'm like, what? But yeah, now it's a testament to what we've done online and the marketing strategy. But you just can't replace that feeling that somebody gets when they walk up to the door, isn't it? You know, I've had that a few times where they've just opened the door and they go, this isn't for me. You know, we'll go round, but you know, and for me, it's a learning curve. I will still take someone round and I'll learn all the bits of why now this isn't for them, and an exploration about how to then get it better next time. And on that instant access and instant viewing. Why is it not for you? You know, where is it all about? But do it skillfully in the process. So let's get back to the accessories then. What are we talking about then?
Yeah, so I mean, for me, one of the things that I really like now, and they don't take up much room, is those floating shelves that you get. I think that they're really fantastic because they're not bulky looking and you're not seeing all these straps and everything on the walls, which kind of detract from the look. But I think floating shelves look great. They're good for arranging like a few good books on, maybe some small plants, a couple of pictures of your family, like special little decorative things that you might want to put. The mirrors are really good as well for adding depth, light and glamour to a space. But as Andrea says, maybe not put it above the fireplace, not necessarily a good thing. But I think mirrors as well are good for kind of the outdoors feel. So, you know, if for instance you've got like say bifolding doors, patio doors, and then you've got mirrors on the wall opposite, you've got that reflection. So again, it's that illusion of space and warmth, and outdoors, indoors, vice versa. So I'd even recommend putting mirrors in every room. I think actually I've got mirrors in every room when I think about it now. And I think they're a good thing for just brightening the rooms up on a nice sunny day as well. When you've got light streaming in your windows, is again reflecting off the mirrors and can make it quite nice as well. You do need to be careful with that because sometimes it can be overly bright, but you know, there's ways that you can stage that. I think art, we've talked about artwork. I think if you have decided to and opted for bare walls, which actually we're seeing quite a lot now, you know, you're either getting that kind of feature wall with paper or the rest of the walls are just painted. We're kind of gone back to that, haven't we?
There's loads, the artwork and stuff like that. There's loads of local artists round about the Fife area, you know, in East Neuk over at St Andrews. There's loads of photographers as well on all the social media pages, because a lot of areas have photography pages, you know, actual groups. So you can go into them and find really good photographers and actually possibly say, any chance I could get that print that you've just done of the St Andrew's Cathedral or of the the East Neuk Harbour on a canvas, and I could put that on the wall. So there is loads of really good photographers out there and artists locally as well. So I would recommend explore that opportunity.
Yeah, interesting you say that, actually, because I did exactly that through Gifts and Gibbles. Actually, they had some artwork on their webpage, and I ended up buying a boat piece for my bathroom, and it's just loads of splash of colour, but it's brightened up that whole kind of area. So
yeah,
I think where we are, and again, a lot of people who live in this area live here because what surrounds us. I mean, we're very fortunate in Fife. It's just so beautiful here, but a lot of people want to bring some of Fife into their homes. So again, the artwork can do that as well, as you say, by supporting kind of local people in our communities, which is a great thing. But it also can add a lot of elegance to a room as well as colour, can't it? You get so many beautiful frames you can put them in. And again, if you do want to have some of your personal photos up, think about how you're putting them, how you're decorating the photograph. So, what surrounds are you putting there? What frame are you putting there? And is it matching with everything else in the house? But those things can add pops of colour as well, because you can get bespoke ones. So I think that really makes a room look nice and colourful as well.
Yeah. Lighting.
What else do you think would do?
Oh, lighting, probably in particular, especially for winter viewings, go for daylight light inside. So it's a white light, not a yellow light, because yellow light is pretty dingy and dark. So go for a daylight light. You get great LEDs. Replace your old incandescent lights. It take about 5 years to warm up before the room gets bright. That's not what you should be using for the investment in proper lighting. That's really important. So think about things like also table lamps in the corner, floor lamps. Remember to use bulbs again, as I said, with a bright and white light. So daylight is usually one. Cool white is a good one as well. Posh soaps and dispensers. I think it's Bayless and something else.
Bayless
We've
and
got in
Harding.
our bathroom. Aye, that's it. Just make. I tell you what, I don't know what it is, but it's a nice container. It comes in, so it looks nice and it looks and it sets it off. So it might be a wee bit more expensive, but it is luxury accessories to accentuate the bathroom. Even though you've got a tired bathroom, that will make a fundamental difference to it overall. And along with, maybe, I don't know, maybe you should use. I'm not sure about medicine bottles and stuff like that. If they should all be sitting about, if toothpaste should be sitting about as well. Maybe then tuck these into the cupboards or out the way for the viewing itself. Your old, your glass that you always rinse your mouth out in, make sure that's all clean and tidy if you're going to leave that in there, because it's sometimes all hideous and hazy and needs a good wash. It doesn't look good. And then mold and everything like that, make sure that's all sorted out as well. So hide any non-designer products in cabinets and probably maybe accentuate the designer ones a bit more, because it does give that Instagram sort of feel and lifestyle that people want. Because again, it's lifestyle they're buying your house for. It's not because it's got, it's not clinical, because they've already proved that to themselves. It's got 4 rooms, it's got 3 rooms, it's got 2 receptions, it's got a dining kitchen. That's what they want. That's why they're at your house. All they need to do is it the house I really want? Is it my dream home? Is it the next step to my dream home, possibly for them? So look at each of your rooms for opportunities to add final finishing touches. Small gestures go a long way in creating a wonderful and a thoughtful, welcoming atmosphere. What's the final words on this when we wrap up, Andrea? I
would say if you love your home, other people will love it too.
Yeah, good. That's a
and
really
make it
good
look
point.
Like that.
Sarah Beanie used to say that all the time. How on earth, and I remember it all the time, how on earth do you expect anybody else to love your home if you don't love it yourself? Terry, what's your thoughts on this finally?
I think for me, restyling your home can be enjoyable and rewarding. It's something I enjoy doing. It's a good experience. It can add a whole new lease of life to your property, and it doesn't need to be expensive. And I think by doing that, you're demonstrating to people that your property is loved, and you're giving them all that positive emotion that's going to hopefully get you a great sale.
Yeah. I mean, these are the time of years that the sales are in full swing. There's plenty of bargains, retail therapy to be had if that's this kind of thing you're wanting. You can be very cost effective for you. It can be very affordable to do these things, especially if you're selling your house. This is the difference between a few £100s to get thousands more. Don't have that broke mentality. Don't have that thing about, you don't have the right investment for your property to get that wow factor. And that's it. Thank you very much for coming on the show, guys. If anybody's got any questions later on, please feel free to message us direct, or you can just comment on this post, and we're more than happy to come back to you. And until next week, it's bye-bye from us.
Bye-bye. Take care.